Hey everybody, I am just going to get a few things set up here and make sure that I unmute the correct people.
I noticed we both either snitch or work on the street from each
All right, so Jane, can you just test your audio, please?
professional referral resources.
I'm going to mute Jane. All right, so, all right. Hope everyone's doing great today. While I'm doing this, we'll start in just a couple minutes here. Hey, Allison, can I have you test your audio, please?
Howdy.
Howdy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. All right, let me just unmute Jane as well. Jane, how's it going?
I'm good, except that hold on, let me put my audio in.
Okay.
Don't have my headset on.
And I just asked you to start video, so then we should be able to see your face in a minute.
Okay.
Or you can, there we go.
Can you see me?
I can.
Can you hear me?
I can, but we'll probably want to do the headphones if possible, just so that we don't have any weird kind of pickups. And then I muted everybody else. Wow, 22 people here already. Way to stand in line and get in here, folks. I heard some of you camped out overnight at like an Apple store and like that tent community just to be here. That's pretty awesome. Sweet. Well, I am going to just go through and make sure all of our muting is okay. Yep, looks like everyone's muted. Your 3 videos are on. We have some other folks' video that's on. So those of you that are here, the 25 that are here right now, just want to give you just a quick kind of orientation on the Zoom platform. And I'll go over this again, but one of the really cool things about Zoom is that you can enable video so that we can look at each other if you have a question, which is super cool. So then if you have a question, you can raise your hand, you can do other different things to be able to like kind of talk face to face rather than just like most webinars where you just see like a screen of slides and then you hear this voice talking over it. I feel like this matches what counselors are like, where we're like face to face, all hanging out in a room together. That room just happens to be up in the cloud. So a couple features that are really cool that I want you to test out while we're waiting for the other 20 or so people is the ability to raise your hand. So you'll see at the bottom there's a manage participants where you can raise your hand. So let's just practice raising our hand. And then I'll kind of look through. There's actually a button. So you should see like a button that you hit that raises your hand. And let me just scroll through and see if there's, all right. Looks like Allison got it first. She's an old Zoom vet. She did Blog Sprint. Looks like Catherine, good job raising your hand. Ashley, and over in the chat, if you figured out how to raise your hand, please type over in the chat where to do it. So Kelsey, you just raised your hand. Maybe you could drop into the chat how you did that. Thanks for raising your hand. And let me scroll through and see if anyone else has raised your hand. Now, if you're on the phone, I don't know if you have that ability, if you called in. So sorry about that. But it looks like Cora, you raised your hand. Good job, Cora. Well done. Jessica, good job. Anne Marie, good job. Look at all of you already achieving things so early in the afternoon. All right. Jen said that when you click on participants, you'll see your name and you can see the hand. Thank you, Jen, for finding that. Who else? Let's see. Looks like Ellis just raised their hand. All right. For Zinarani. Oh, I slaughtered your name. I'm so sorry. But good job raising your. I said it right? Sweet. Yeah, thanks for the thumbs up. All right. And then Beth, good job. And then Makatomas. Did I say your name wrong? Way wrong? I'm sorry. I can unmute you and you can tell me how to say it. How do you say it?
My name's actually Marisol. That's just, I don't know. This created it for me when I logged on.
Oh, so what's the real name? Your real name?
Marisol.
Marisol?
Marisol. Marisol.
Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm sorry for calling you whatever name you did.
Butchering it.
Awesome. All right. So that's kind of an example of how it works. So like the Cult of Tiffany, that's great. You must have been able to name yourself, or maybe I'm going to lower your hand. I want to hear more about unmute audio. You didn't name yourself the Cult of Tiffany. It just came up that way.
I have a secret email address that is that, and that is what it chose.
That is hilarious.
You're awesome,
now
Tiffany.
The world knows the Cult of Tiffany. We don't have to talk about what platform the Cult of Tiffany is on. Oh, funny. Oh, man. Well, Tiffany, let me go back and find you so I can mute you again. Oh, it looks like you muted yourself. Thank you. All right, let's keep testing. Oh, it looks like Ada's here from People Bloom Counseling. She did Blog Sprint also. Welcome. All right, and let me just scroll through. If you're new and just joined us, I know about 10 people joined us. We're testing out raising your hand, and when you raise your hand, then I can unmute you if you have questions. Jan's here too. Jan was a Most Awesome Conference attendee. Glad to see your face again, Jan. All right, Shelby, I'm going to lower your hand, and then I can like unmute Shelby. Shelby, where are you at? Shelby, I just wanted to test your audio. Oh, hey, where are you from?
I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Oh, awesome. I have been down there once when I was on tour with a band. All right. It must be pretty hot down in Texas right now, I would guess.
It is very, very hot.
Yeah.
104.
Oh my gosh.
Ouch.
It was 94 here yesterday, and that was too much for me. But we went swimming in the water and sat at the yacht club. Yeah.
Yacht club.
The rum runners were on sale. All right. Let's see. All right. Looks like we have we're going to fill this place up. Randy just joined us. Hello, Randy. How are you? Let me see if I can mute your video. Let's see. Cool. Well, Allison and Jane, any questions in regards to the platform? Like just kind of any logistical things?
I think one thing to point out. Oh, sorry, Jane.
No, you go ahead. We always do this. We talk over each other a lot. We're in sync with each other.
Totally. One thing is up in the top right hand, you guys, you can click either speaker view or gallery view, and gallery view allows you to see everyone else, which is fun.
Cool. Thank you for noticing that and pointing it out.
I was going to add, I have my therapy dog in the room, and he has a tendency to howl if there's a fire truck going by. So if that happens, I'm going to mute myself really quick. But I don't know. I felt like throwing that in there.
No, that's awesome.
There's howling all of a sudden. Don't be scared. It's okay. It's just Hugo. So.
One of the first group practices I worked at had a bunch of therapy dogs, and they each had the craziest different personalities. There's this one named Zipper that was this like huge dog that would just kind of like, and then there was this little hyper one named Seamus that was this little like wiener dog that would like run laps around the place. And there was this other one, Stella, that she like pranced around. She was like a poodle. It was like this whole like movie, like that movie that just came out, but like the therapy dogs, they all had these crazy personalities. And then the owner's dog, Lola, she just always like wanted to go outside. Like she hated being inside, but then she would calm down in the middle of the session. So. Yeah, so those of you that just joined us, you have the ability to raise your hand. And so when you raise your hand, that lets us know to unmute you and that you have a question. And we want this to be super interactive, like we're all hanging out in a room together, rather than just it being a typical webinar where you see a bunch of slides and you don't get to see people's beautiful faces. So it's really cool as if you have the video enabled and you have a question and I've unmuted you, your video will actually pop up just like Skype or like any other video platforms rather than just having to type into the side. So it's a super cool feature on Zoom to be able to like just talk to people and see them. So if you just got here, test out the raising the hand button.
You guys doing it? Did y'all hear this?
Poor Hugo.
I know.
Hugo.
It's okay, buddy. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
That's what he does.
Same thing I said. I am impressed with all of y'all getting here and elbowing people out of the way to get in. Emma, raise your hand. Good job. Isn't it fun to think about like camping out for a webinar? Like it's just so silly. Well, we're going to get started in probably 2 or 3 minutes, just to let those kind of final folks roll in. I know some people emailed that they had clients that went right up till 3 o'clock and they were hoping to get in. They knew they couldn't camp out. But why don't you, while we're waiting, drop something into the chat section. I'd like you to answer the question of what's the one thing that you really hope to get out of this webinar today. So if you have a group practice and you're like, I want to learn how to market a group practice, or I just started out and I suck at computers, like put that in there too. No question or comment is too... Well, I shouldn't say that. There are things you could write that would offend me. But what you're feeling in regards to marketing and private practice over into the chat. And then we can also get used to kind of dropping things into the chat. And then 1 or 2 minutes, we'll get started. And then we can also kind of cater some of this webinar around some of those comments too. All right, so go ahead and drop some questions into the chat, kind of your purpose, your intentions for this webinar over there. All right. Look at those pouring in. So we've got marketing to physicians, getting off insurance panels, marketing to my niche or niche, especially with social media, networking tips, want to get more comfortable with marketing, help with technology, especially my website, so it's more mobile ready. All right, I'm not good with networking. Would like to determine other ways of marketing. All right. Narrow down your niche too much. Can you do that too much? I want to help affluent couples with affairs and arguments and addictions. Oh, good theme with the A there. Got your A game on.
It's important. Oh.
How to blog without sounding like an idiot. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for putting those things in there, and keep them coming so that we can make sure that as we cover our 9 marketing tips that we think are most important, if we miss something, we're going to have a substantial amount of time at the end that's for Q&A, where all 3 of us will be giving you advice kind of for your particular situation. So if for some reason while we're talking, we don't hit on all the things that you want us to hit on, we want this to be as useful for you as possible, as if we're all just kind of at a round table chatting about how to help you grow your practice. So great. Keep them coming in the chat roll. We'll do our very best to get to all those thoughts. And, oh, thanks, Tiffany. Our shiny faces. Yeah, I didn't moisturize too much this morning. And no. All right, cool. Always looking for those one-liners. Just got to be funnier than Jane and Allison. If I get it all out at the beginning, then you guys can take over. Cool. Well, as we started, why don't I frame out kind of how this is going to flow so you have an idea of where we're headed. And then from there, we'll get started. So today we are going to share with you 9 marketing tips that we have found to be most useful. And so if you just joined us, you have the ability to raise your hand if you have questions. We're going to have most of the Q&A at the very end. And we're also recording this, and we're going to put it up as a private YouTube video so that you can go back to it and watch it or share it with your friends. So wanted to let you know that we're going to be covering 9 tips. Each of the 3 of us is going to be doing 3 different tips that we think are really important. That doesn't mean that that's the end-all be-all, but these are the ones that, man, like you really need to like get down. And so you can raise your hand when it's a question time. And also, if you have questions, you can drop those in the chat. Also, if I mention a resource or any of the other presenters mention a resource, one of the other presenters will type that resource in to the chat roll, or if you know that and want to go get that URL or that book or whatever we mentioned, feel free to drop that in just so that we can all kind of like share in that community of making sure that we share kind of the information to make it easiest for everyone if we miss something. All right, so I think that's it in regards to welcome. So we're going to be hitting on these 9 marketing tips. Jane's going to first share 3, then it's going to be me, then Allison, then we're going to talk and banter for a little bit, and then we're going to share about a few resources, and then we're going to do probably 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. So we're going to be done right at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And let's, in a minute here, we're going to have our final person come because the door is going to be locked. You can get out, but you can't get in. All right.
That sounds so ominous.
It does. Oh,
We've got you.
with the cult of Tiffany hanging out with us.
I mean, that's
She's like,
true.
"Stop saying that.
I would join that
Stop
cult.
saying
I'm a fan.
She's so embarrassed. She's like, why am I here? All right, so Jane, let's kick off your 3 tips.
Okay, great. I'm so excited to see all of you on here. And first, I'm going to give you a mindset tip, and then I'm going to give you 2 strategies that were really helpful to me in filling my practice. And both of them are offline strategies. I know, we talk a lot about online marketing, and it's very important, but sometimes you can do some things that are offline that make a huge difference. So the first thing is this mindset. And I believe that your mindset is just as important as your strategies. I want you.
No, Jane. I want you to. Oh, you lost her.
Don't get booted out because you can't get back in. There you are.
Say that it feels kind of icky or sleazy. But marketing is a service, and there are 2 ways that that's true. First of all, people need your service. They need what you do. The world needs your work. That's one of my favorite quotes. It's not like you're just sitting here kind of conniving on how to separate people from their money. You want to help them. And there are future clients sitting out there right now who are in pain, and they need solutions, and they're feeling alone, and they need what you have to offer. And so I would actually say, don't you dare deprive them of what you can serve them with, what you have to offer them, by serving your fear instead of serving your clients or serving your future clients. So the marketing that you do is absolutely a service. The other way that you serve people with your marketing is just the actual content itself. So if you are explaining, marketing can be very educational. It can be educational about what's possible through counseling. A lot of people don't realize that. As therapists, we're just kind of used to that. We know that it's effective. There are a lot of people who just don't even realize that it's possible for them to feel better. They don't know that it's possible for their relationships to be better. So if you are marketing to people, you're educating them about hope for what could happen for them. You're also educating them about the process of therapy, and that's really important. You are also, and I know that Joe and Allison are going to get into some ideal client stuff, but if you are speaking to your ideal client in your marketing, you're actually validating their feelings. You're helping them feel less alone. If I go to someone's website and they describe what I'm going through, then I go, oh, other people feel this way too. And it's already a therapeutic process. So again, think of marketing as service, okay? Write it on a piece of paper, put it on your desk, look at it every morning. Anytime you're about to go do something uncomfortable related to marketing, just remind yourself you're doing this to serve other people and to help people, okay? All right, number 2. So this is an offline marketing strategy. I like to have an open house maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. It's a really simple strategy. What you do, you put out a Facebook invitation to everybody you know. It could be 150, 200 people, even if you have a tiny waiting area like I do. I like to just go and buy some champagne at Trader Joe's, some sparkling lemonade, a plate of cookies, keep it very simple, and put out a giveaway. So it could be a tip sheet like 10 steps to reduce stress in your life, 5 keys to a healthy relationship, something where they're actually being helped while they're there. But have your information on that giveaway. Have your bio, have your contact information. So now they've got it in their hands. So whether they look at it themselves or give it to somebody it might be useful to, they've got your information. Another thing you can do, you can have a raffle. I share an office with some massage therapists. We share a waiting room. So we'll do an open house together. They give away massages. I can't give away therapy as part of a raffle. That brings up all kinds of ethical issues. So what I might do is go buy a stack of Brene Brown books or some sort of de-stressing toy or something like that. And what you do is when they sign up for your newsletter list, they are entered into the raffle. So now you're collecting names of people who might actually be interested in what you're doing and want to get your blog or your newsletter. but then, the raffle makes it fun and it's worthwhile for them to come to your open house. But here's the thing, the open house itself, the actual party, isn't the main purpose of doing this. And this is a little sneaky, but the fact that you are sending out this invitation to, between 70 and 200 of your closest friends means that every time they see your flyer or your Facebook invitation, they're getting a reminder that you're in private practice, that you're there, you're top of mind. So when one of their friends mentions, oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm really thinking about seeing a counselor or a therapist, you're fresh on their brain. So I've had so many people come up to me and they said, oh, I didn't make it to your open house, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Our space was completely packed to the gills. It was probably better they weren't there, actually. We ran out of cookies. But they've got me on the brain. So when it comes time to make a referral, there it is. And it creates momentum. Every little thing that you do, especially if you're doing hospitality, you're just creating momentum for your practice, right? And number 3, I'm going to drink some water real quick. Another thing that really helped me fill my practice and has helped some of my coaching clients is to do a warm letter. And what this is a snail mail letter. You can also do it via email, but it's basically, especially if you're first starting out, it's sending out a letter to your hairdresser, your massage therapist, your friends, your family, and it's introducing your practice. And I want it to include 3 things, okay? First of all, you want to have a basic introduction. So it's either, hi, I wanted to let you know I've opened my practice, or it might be a reminder like, hey, just a reminder, I'm still in practice. It's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. And try to include a story. And that can be a client success story. So I did one where I said, the greatest thing happened the other day. One of my clients walked in and she said that people keep asking her if she's grown, if she's taller, and she feels taller. And what we realized is that she was feeling so much more confident that she's standing tall and holding her head up. So there's a story. Or even it could just be something as basic as, back when I started my practice, I was really looking forward to helping lots of people. Just something that engages with a narrative. Paragraph 2, you want to describe who you work with and the results that you get. And keep this really brief. We don't want this letter to go on and on and on. But just, describe your ideal client. I specialize in working with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, affairs of affluent people, your 3 A's. You can do bullet points. But just a brief description of that. And then the 3rd paragraph is a call to action where you say, Jennifer, my hairdresser, I would be so honored if you would consider sending me clients. If you know anyone who's struggling with this kind of issue, I hope you'll keep me in mind. I typically don't say, I have so many slots open. I might say, I've had a couple of slots open in my practice. I've had a few slots open in my practice. You don't want to come across as desperate, but just say, I would be so honored if you would think of me. And if I also will say, even if I'm not a good fit for them, I'd love to help make a referral to another counselor, but I just want to be helpful. So it's a spirit of service, a spirit of helping. And include 1 or 2 cards. Don't give them a stack of 20 because that comes across, again, as desperate. Just 1 to 3 cards. And snail mail is special and people like it. You can even, if you type this letter out, you can just put like a little personal note too. But yeah, so those are my 3 favorite tips for private practice.
Awesome job, Jane. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, I think the thing that I see most common with my consulting clients is that they have a decent idea of who they want to attract, but they aren't really focused on it. And so I want to talk about an exercise I do with every single one of my consulting clients. And that's putting together what we would call your business avatar or your ideal client. And so really thinking through, who is it that you want to attract? So for example, mental wellness counseling, for a long time we've said we help angry kids, frustrated parents, and distant couples. So let's take kind of the typical frustrated parent. I might say, okay, they are 42 years old. They have a son and a daughter that are these ages. I'm going to name her Martha. and Martha is married to Dan. And so I'm starting to create an actual kind of profile for this ideal client. And one of the main reasons you want to do that is that when you start blogging, when you start writing your copy for your website, when you improve things, you can feel like, I'm going to write to Martha and Dan in this blog post, or I'm going to write this one just for Dan, or I'm going to write this for Chad, their son. And so then you start to kind of have some ideas of this like fictional family that you've created, but it makes it a lot easier for you to visualize it. That comes through in all of your writing. So then I would even go farther and say, well, who are they connected to in their community? Are they members of the yacht club? Are they members of the country club? Do they go to yoga down at Yen Yoga every single Tuesday? What are the struggles? Do they attend a church? Which doctor did they go to? So then what you're doing is you have Martha and Dan at the center, and you kind of have all these spokes going off of them of, okay, here's the people that I need to focus on around them. And so if we thought about angry kids that they might have, they're dealing with behavior issues, who's connected to that kid? Well, there's a principal, there's a teacher, there's a school counselor. So then you can start to develop content on your website that specifically is for those people. So it might be a principal's guide to ADHD, a principal's guide to oppositional defiance disorder, a school counselor's guide to behavior issues. So you're creating content then that gives direct value, just like what Jane was saying, to your ideal client. And a lot of people feel like it's really like cheesy to create this business avatar. But honestly, the more that you can visualize that family, that couple, that individual, like I have lots of people that help like women in transition. What does that mean? Is that a divorce? Is that a job change? Is that going up the ladder and they keep hitting the glass ceiling and how they break through that? So visualize that and maybe even find like a Google image that is your business avatar. It feels super cheesy when you first do it. But honestly, the more that you give life to that business avatar, the more it's going to be reflected in all of your content, your writing, your social media, and it's going to flow into everything else. Because you're going to quickly be able to say, well, would Martha and Dan find this cheesy? Yeah, they probably would. Like, I kind of find it cheesy too. So I'm going to take that willow tree out with the river, and I'm going to have something that's a little more edgy in my marketing. The second thing is to blog for SEO. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. So basically means how well Google knows that you matter. So there's a number of things that Google use to figure out where you're going to rank when someone types in your town plus counseling, your town plus therapy. But a few of the big things are you producing content regularly? So specifically, probably blog posts would apply for most of you. And then also, are the search terms within your website quite frequently? And so you want to think about a few different bullet points. I don't want to give you too much, but you want to be blogging usually at least 2 times a month. The more you blog and the more that you appropriately link your blog posts, the more you're going to rank in Google. So for example, I was just talking to this one consulting client of mine named Shane who went through Blog Sprint. He wrote 10 blog posts in 2 weeks, and that was in mid-June. And he's now ranking #1 for his town plus counseling within just a couple weeks because of how he linked things together. So it's creating pages using your town plus counseling. When you talk about your bio at the end of your blog post, linking back to your homepage saying, Joe Sanok owns mental wellness counseling, a Traverse City counseling. That's what I link back to the homepage. Practice. It's not going to be mental wellness counseling because I don't need to rank for mental wellness counseling, because if people are typing in mental wellness counseling, it's probably going to go to my website anyway. I want to rank for Traverse City counseling, Traverse City therapy, Traverse City couples therapy, what to do after an affair. I just wrote a blog post that was all about the psychology of winning the lottery. So that if some lotto winner types in, what do I do? There's lotto winners every other week in Michigan. So they might Google, like, what do I do? Counselor for lotto winners. So I could rank for that. I haven't yet I can't disclose whether or not I'm seeing lotto winners, but so finding these hyper niche markets where you can then write a handful of blog posts. And I mean, honestly, how many other counselors in Michigan are going to write blog posts about what to do when you win the lottery? Not very many. And so even if 2 people a year search that, guess who's going to rank #1 for that? So really blogging for SEO and taking out the worry about your mindset in regards to your writing. In college, we write and write until it's polished, until it's perfect, until everything's great. I want to see you work on speed, over this high quality thing that's going to be submitted to the National Gallery of Writing. Really, the big purpose is you want Google to know that you exist, and you want to make sure that you're doing internal linking for it. The third thing I would say is to be hyper productive around your bottom line for your money. In 2012, it was a terrible year for my family. Some of you know my story. But my daughter had open heart surgery 2 weeks after she got the all clear. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and then my wife had a miscarriage. It was just like one of those years that like we've all had those years where everything fell apart. I had my full-time job at the time, and I had my private practice on the side. And so every time I showed up at my private practice, I really had to ask myself, what am I doing here? Like, am I really adding value to my family by being here? Or should I be home with my daughter who's going to have heart surgery in a couple of weeks? Or should I be home with my family as I'm going through cancer treatment? So I had to become hyper-focused in saying, okay, I'm giving an hour of my family's time to this practice. I better get compensated for that. So that forced me to raise my rates. It forced me to not dilly-dally. You know, if I go online and I'm reading someone's blog, I didn't get sucked into the wormhole of Facebook. I went on there with a purpose. I want to go connect with people. I want to try to get new consulting clients. I want to help promote a podcast. I want to get more counseling clients. Like, no matter what the purpose was, I had to be able to track that back to a financial bottom line. And I think that's where a lot of counselors aren't focusing on their marketing in regards to what am I getting out of this. And so if you're running a marketing campaign, to look at the actual analytics. Okay, so I did a Facebook ad and I did Google ads. They each cost me $100. Which one's got me more clients? I did a newspaper ad and I did a radio ad, and I actually paid for those. Which one got me more clients? So you're analyzing that in your time audit, but then also in your actual financial audit. All right, Allison. You're
Over
up.
to you, Allison. So you kind of like threw this volley up that I can now spike around
Spike
these folks that you were talking about.
Sorry, real quick. Have you heard of Spike Ball?
I think, did you talk about it once? I
Maybe.
feel like I've
I'm
heard
kind of
about it.
addicted. It's this like backyard game. It's like a mini volleyball thing, but they're not here to hear about Spike Ball. But here is your volley.
It could be a metaphor
Spike
for something.
away.
Right, we can work it in somehow, I'm sure. So you were talking about these spokes around your ideal client, your client avatar, right? And so now I want to talk about choosing who to network with based on your ideal client, and it is those spokes. Especially for those of you who really hate networking, if you're going to do it, I want it to be super efficient and super effective, because not everybody's super outgoing and extroverted and all of that. So for you introverts out there / people who hate networking, please make it worth your while if you're going to do it, so that it doesn't become this like self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I knew that wouldn't work anyway. Not that any of you talk like that, but so thinking about your ideal client and who they're going to go to. So maybe that frustrated mom that Joe was talking about is going to go to the principal. Maybe it's going to go to, maybe that mom's going to go to the teacher. How can you network with the counselor or the teacher or the principal? Can you give a talk? How can you get in front of those people that are going to be in front of your ideal clients? If you work with postpartum depression, making sure you're not just kind of scattershot reaching out to people to try to network. Talk to doulas, talk to midwives, talk to OBs. Make sure that you're getting your name out there with PCPs and psychiatrists who might also be the people that these folks are going to before they're seeking counseling. New moms groups would be another good one. I work with eating disorders, so eating disorder dietitians, gynecologists, coaches if I'm working with athletes. So being really clear about first who your ideal, because that really makes our marketing so much easier. It makes our networking so much more efficient. And then planning for the introverts out there / people who hate networking, making it like a once a week thing, maybe a twice a week thing, instead of trying to like cram a bunch of people in all the time and like binge on networking, which is just going to make you exhausted and hate it more. Slow and steady is a great way to do it. Finding your referral sources and nurturing them so that they don't forget about you and so that you stay on that radar. So let's say you make this list of all of these people that your ideal clients are likely to contact. Now we're going to move on to my number 2, which is cold emails, because I mean, great, you found them. What the hell do you say to them? Like, hi. So I'm going to give you kind of a little template here. My name's Allison and I'm awesome. That's not the template. So you're going
But
to...
it should be.
It should be, right? So having a subject line, the one I use the most is I'd love to connect. And that's kind of like warm, it's inviting, it's not overly verbose, and it's not, they don't necessarily think you're a client or a patient or something like that, getting in touch. An introduction.
That worked on me, FYI.
Did I use that on you?
You did. It worked like a charm. So yeah.
I think I did it to Joe too.
I think so.
So, like, hi, I'm Allison. I'm an LCSW and certified eating disorder specialist, and I work with folks struggling with eating disorders. So your name, your credentials, because some people are going to care, who you like to work with. If you've got somebody in common, and this is one of my favorite networking things, is when you're out with somebody having coffee, you say, like, who else do you refer to in town? Who should I meet? Who do you respect a lot? And then you've got a list of names to kind of jump off of. So if Jane is like, oh yeah, like Michael's amazing, you should totally meet him, then I can say, hey Michael, Jane told me that I should meet you, and I'm always looking for like competent people to refer to. I'd love to hear more about your practice. I'd love to get together, whatever your goal is. My goal is always to get face-to-face because that tends to be more impactful. They've got an experience of sitting across from you for 30 minutes or an hour instead of like a letter that sometimes works, but might also, depending on the person, not work. So saying like, you know, I noticed that you also work with eating disorders, Carolyn, and I'd love to get together. Or notice that your office is right down the street from me, Marisol. So like all these different ways that you can kind of work it in if you can find any commonalities. And then let me know if you're available for lunch or coffee. So that way you've got like, it's short, it's sweet. I just totally like expanded out it to give you all these different options of things to say, but it should be short and sweet, and then just have a great day, Allison. I would expect to get back 1 out of every 5 I send just to keep your expectations low. I find it's a little bit different in different areas. So I've had people I've consulted with in areas that were really kind of like steeped in competition where like nobody was writing back, even though her letter was the same thing everybody else was sending from all over the country and getting responses from. I happen to have lived in places that are pretty open and pretty community oriented, so I usually get a higher return, but I'd say if you aim for 1 out of 5, you'll be really pleasantly surprised when you get more, unless you hate networking. So the last one would be to be yourself in your interactions when you're networking. Instead of being like the buttoned up, very professional version of yourself that isn't necessarily the warm you. So I would say be yourself in your interactions, but also be yourself in your website copy. Don't bring out your academic self in your website copy because nobody cares. Like, it's a snooze fest. They're going to click away. Your bounce rate's going to go way up. So instead, talk or write like you talk. I like the best friend test. Like if you read it out loud and your best friend or your partner is like, who are you? Then maybe you need to edit. And that way you're going to actually kind of filter out some people who aren't going to be a great fit for you. Maybe they're a little more buttoned up than you want to be. And you're going to call in the people who really like your candor or like your style, basically. So that could include cussing if you want people who are cool with cussing, Tiffany. That can, not to call you out. So that could include all sorts of different things in order to be, get your people in. So I think those are my 3. Yeah. Boom.
I put all of those.
Drop mic right now.
So I put all of those in the chat reel too. So if you missed any of them from each of us, all 9 of those tips are right there in the chat. So now we're just going to chat for a few minutes about what gets in the way of people kind of taking action on these 9 things. So Jane and Allison, like, what do you see in your consulting clients for, you hear all this, we consume all this information, and then we go back to doing things exactly the same and basically wasted an hour to be on a webinar that we don't take action on. So like, what do you see that stands in the way for people? But then also, what do you see as being ways that they break through those barriers?
I am going to jump in and say fear of being seen is a huge one that keeps coming up. I know so many people, and I have clients who they know what to do. They've got their to-do list. They like to kind of rewrite their to-do list over and over again instead of actually pouncing or come up with the perfect plan. But the fear of actually having to present themselves and then be up for evaluation by those who may, they're afraid of being judged or just afraid of being seen. It's kind of scary sometimes. And so learning how to get through that. And sometimes it's just doing it scared. Sometimes it's doing, the way to break through that is to kind of think about what would you say to a client who is feeling the same fears, or who's feeling fearful, what kind of encouragement do you give them? And the other thing, and Allison touched on this for introverts, which I am one, consistency. It no longer is, oh gosh, I have to send out this warm letter, or I have to call this person. It's kind of like, if you can have it be on Friday mornings, I call 3 referral sources. On Friday afternoons, I do these things. It just becomes kind of this is how it works kind of thing. So consistent action brings consistent results.
Awesome.
Totally. I agree. Allison, what do you think?
I think there are stories about ourselves. So like I have this story about how I suck at technology. And there were frequently times that I want to like throw my computer across, like I have all these fantasies about like throwing my computer against the wall and like stepping on it and hitting it with a hammer. I could go on. And I'm really nonviolent, FYI. But just like these stories that we have about ourselves that like we are good at something or we are not good at something. So not to call out our friend who said they're not good at networking, but it might just be finding the hack that works for you. And so it would be really easy for me to be like, well, SEO is really overwhelming and I don't understand it. So I'm just going to like not do it at all. But if I can find out ways to make it work for me, if I can find like mentors who can dumb it down for me, honestly, then that makes it a lot easier. And it also increases my confidence of like, now I can edit my WordPress website and I feel fancy. So challenging your assumptions about what you can and can't do.
Which is really funny because like you are one of the only people I know that has mastered the Facebook pixel. Like I've tried so many times and it never works like it's supposed to. I watch tutorials. And so it's interesting that like, Allison's narrative in her head isn't accurate to how even like I view her. And I know her really well. And so I never would have guessed that was like the inner real. And so I just wanted to say that because I don't, well now I can think of you differently, I guess. But
yeah, now I've made myself look bad in front of you.
Yeah, now you're off of a pedestal that you were on, the Facebook pixel pedestal.
So yeah, challenge, because being in private practice is going to challenge like 1,000,007 things about your life and yourself. And so go ahead and throw this on the list.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think also I notice, and maybe you guys see this too, that people sometimes don't have a plan. And so they don't say, well, what do I want to achieve this year? Like, what's the one big thing? I want to hit 100K, or I want to like, increase my monthly rates by a certain amount, or I want to bring on new clinicians. Like, what is your actual goal that you want to achieve? And then how do you break that down into kind of steps and then micro steps that you can do? If you have a no-show, what can you do in 45 minutes to take action to move that overall needle forward? Or even if you have 10 minutes where like someone shows up late to a meeting, like what can you do on your checklist that's going to be that next little micro step? And so the more that I think that people have a plan, they automate their schedule to like really do the things that they know they need to do every week or every month, and just have it plug in so it's not a choice. Like for me, I have blogging and podcasts every Thursday morning that goes live. So guess what I did this morning? I worked on my podcast and got 4 of them done. Next week, I'm going to have like Blitz week where I have 4 podcasts that are going live for 4 days in a row. So I got it done because I had it in my schedule. Someone didn't accidentally get scheduled in there. It was just blocked out and it repeats every single Thursday morning. And so I think the more that you take these things and then take the action and make the plan, we see so many more results faster than if you just consume the information and then don't have a plan for it.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Well, we're going to do some Q&A, but first we wanted to tell you a little bit about an event that we're doing down in Asheville, North Carolina. And this is where, I think all 3 of us, like, we don't feel like salespeople and we don't want to feel like salespeople. I sold vacuum cleaners door to door when I was in college and it was terrible. And it was because I didn't believe in the product, and I also didn't believe like it was going to change people's lives like I was told it would. Like we would even like flip it over and have a cigarette, and it pulled all the tobacco out of it, and it's like, look at it was just terrible, and it was slimy. But the three of us, started brainstorming probably 6 months ago about like what would a conference that would be unique to the three of us be and look like. And Asheville seemed like the perfect place just because I love Asheville. They happen to be in Asheville, and So we put together a conference we're calling Brew Your Practice, and we wanted to share just a little bit about what we're excited about with that. Give you an opportunity before the rates go up tomorrow to purchase a ticket, and if you have any questions about it, and then we're going to dive into Q&A. So Jane, why don't you start with just some things that you're excited about with Brew Your Practice?
Okay. I'm so excited, and I really hope y'all will think about coming. I love to show off my town anyway. Asheville's just a fantastic place. It's beautiful. We're surrounded by mountains. We have a great beer scene, a great coffee scene, an incredible food scene. But really, we're hoping that this 2-day mini conference will be an intensive time where you're going to get some individual attention from us. You're going to get some really good masterminding with one another. And we want people to leave with an action plan of kind of next steps, some big picture looks at their practice and kind of where they're headed, what's their vision for their ideal practice and what needs to happen next for that. But also, I'm hoping that people are going to leave Brew Your Practice kind of having their mindset rocked in a really good way and just feeling kind of on fire and feeling like they've broken through some of those mindset blocks that tend to come up. Yeah, and we also, one of our stated goals as we were planning this is that we just want it to be fun too. We want you to go home not only having learned some things and feeling energized in your practice, but we want you to have had a great time and feel refreshed and just have really enjoyed this experience. And we're going to try to make it as enjoyable as possible. It's going to be delicious too. We're going to be at one of the best restaurants downtown, and we're going to eat all kinds of amazing delicious carbs and yumminess. So yeah, I really hope you'll think about coming. It's going to be awesome, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Yeah. Allison, what about you? What are you excited about with it?
Aside from seeing how many more puns Jane can come up with about it, because she's been like the master of puns. It's been amazing. I think just like getting to be with people in person. I love like my internet friends, but it's really fun to be able to actually hang out and not share the same beer, but like share a beer together. And yeah, the mindset piece is what we've all talked about as being so important, because that fear is starting a practice isn't actually like rocket science. It's our own fear that gets in our way. And as long as you've got a plan, which is part of what we'll be working on, and then you've got to take care of that mindset stuff, like you're golden, you're going to build, it's going to be just fine. So yeah, I'm excited to usher people on in.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that we all have really wanted to do is figure out how do we help people have the consulting experience with us without always having the consulting cost. Because to work with all of us, it usually costs $500 to $1,500 per month to do some really good work that we all believe in, but not everybody can afford that, and not everyone even sees the ROI or the return on investment of that. And so I think to have a conference that's a lower cost, that people can come and get a lot done in 2 days, get that individual kind of mindset in a smaller group of 20 or so people, that's really, I think, important to all of us to allow there to be times that we can have it be lower cost for people to really kind of make some huge progress in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put more details of it into the chat roll, and then we're going to do some Q&A. And so that's going to be September 29th and 30th in Asheville, North Carolina, which I've been there in August when it rained for like the whole time. So I'm really excited to actually be there and not be camping in the mud, and to get to know the town even more. So the price goes up tomorrow. Right now it's $997, and then it goes up to $1,295, I think, tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So if you're on the fence, you'll probably want to make a decision soon and run some numbers. But if you have questions about it, you can ask us. But we just want to really help you with your marketing today. So let me put that info into the chat. And then let's take some questions. And the people that are calling in from a phone, I know that you can't raise your hand. So I will at some point just unmute everyone. And we'll try to have it not be too much of a free-for-all. But if you are a phone person, in a few minutes, what I'll do is I'll unmute everyone, and everyone that's not on the phone, just remute yourself, and then we can have a couple of the phone people ask questions if you have questions too, because we don't want you to be left out. All right, so if you have questions, you can drop it into the chat, or you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you, and then maybe we can do a little bit of Q&A. So what questions do you have? What did we miss?
I've seen a lot, Joe, about primary care providers.
Yeah.
And how to network with them. So I wanted to speak to that a little bit and then see if anybody has anything they want to add. I see there are a couple ways, because they have the gatekeepers, like somebody was saying in the comments. So there are a couple different ways. If you already share a client with them, and it is best practices to consult with their physician if they're prescribing them psych meds especially, then as long as you've got a release from your client, you can say, like, we're both working with Jane Doe. I'd really love to consult and make sure we're on the same page about her treatment, and that gets you in the door. Probably some of your clients are also already talking to their doctors about what great work you're doing if they happen to be prescribing them psych meds. So that's kind of the client in. And once you're in, it's a lot easier. You can talk to the referral coordinator. You can talk to the office manager. You can also offer to do a talk. Make sure that if you're going to offer a talk, it's something that would actually help the office, not like how to identify depression. They mostly know how to identify depression, and they're going to be like, we don't need your talk. Thanks, though, for playing. So instead, like if you specialize in fertility, going to the fertility clinic and maybe talking about how to make, if they don't have somebody on staff, how to make that referral for somebody who seems especially fragile and they don't want to make it worse by suggesting they go to counseling, or talking about improved outcomes when people are in therapy while struggling with infertility. It improves their outcomes, and that makes the fertility clinics happy because they're looking at their outcomes too. Outcomes meaning successful pregnancy. So you can pitch talks. If you pitch a talk, bring some food. That's what they're used to with the drug reps. It can be expensive. I think I learned from you, Joe, to ask the front desk staff, like, what do you guys like to eat? So you're also making them super happy with the good food.
Right. Or who do most drug reps bring that you're sick of? So I'm sick of Jimmy John's. Just don't bring Jimmy John's. Okay. Won't bring the Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
So yeah, that works really well.
Yeah. So, and I know the other Allison that's in here had some things. Can we unmute her and see if she wants, not to put you on the spot, other Allison?
Yeah,
but
she had some questions. Let's see.
I think Allison had some, was it Allison that had good info?
Go for it, Allison.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit quiet, but that's okay.
Okay, I can move this closer to me. My children are watching here. So I was working with a friend of mine who was a pharmaceutical rep for 14 years, and she was sort of coaching me through what to do. And so her process was, first step would be go to the office and just drop off like some literature, some brochures, and get the name of the person who is the, referral coordinator, the office manager, maybe a nurse that does referrals. And then, of course, the day that I went, none of them were available. And I kind of got the, cold shoulder from the secretary, but then I called and directly asked for that person. And then once I got to talk to that person, that was more successful. And then it sort of grew from there with, oh, hey, you saw my brochure come across your desk, or, oh, maybe you didn't. Can I bring some more by? And then kind of felt them out as far as what did they need? Did they need more referral sources or not? And a lot of them wanted, I made this document. I have a group of all the clinicians, their specialties, and what insurances they take. And they were like, oh, that would be perfect, because then they get frustrated, their clients get frustrated when they're looking for somebody that they may call 5
Hey,
places.
Allison, I'm sorry. I think your hand might be over your mic.
Oh, sorry.
There. Just like the last couple sentences.
Okay, what I was saying was I made up this document that lists all the clinicians that work for me, their specialties, what insurances they take. So then they knew, right away, like, oh, I can see Allison because she takes my insurance, and they didn't have to call and be frustrated by calling around and finding out the first 5 people didn't take their insurance. So they were all really happy with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great advice.
And Ada said that Beth may have had some insight too. So, Allison, go ahead and mute yourself, and let me see if I can find Beth in all this group. Beth, or Beth, if you want to raise your hand, then I might be able to find you in this a little bit faster if you had extra advice. Oh, there she is. All right. All right. Go ahead, Beth. You should be unmuted now.
She's muted again.
Uh-oh. Let me unmute you. Where'd you go? Sorry about that, Beth. Got to scroll through 50 people. It's awesome that we have 50 people here.
Yes.
Where did you go? Oh, Beth, I'm so sorry. We'll come back to you, Beth. I'll find you. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have other questions or, oh, I found you again. All right, I think you're unmuted, Beth.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, we can.
Hey, everybody. Okay, so first of all, it's with doctors, it's all about mindset. Isn't that so crazy? Everything's all about mindset. You have to remember that, especially PCPs, they love us. Okay, they write prescriptions. They have no idea what they're really doing sometimes. Sometimes they're kind of out of the comfort zone. And their people come to see them every 90 days to get prescriptions refilled. And they don't really have much time to spend, asking about lethality, the whole thing. So when I first opened my practice 10 years ago, and by the way, this is a very dangerous thing to do if you want to get off insurance panels, which I'm firing my last insurance panel next month. So I'm there. Yay! Exactly. And I still have doctors that I talked to 10 years ago trying to send me people. It's so crazy. Okay, so here's what I did. I would get a client in, and especially if they're on meds, I would have them ask them if they would sign a release, and I would write a summary, and I would fax it to the doctor, because the I'm sure everyone's tried, going to the doctor's office, trying to get the person to talk to you. They have tons of people that go to them all the time. They're trying to get in the door. It's really frustrating. And they've got so much on their plates anyway. Like, it's just kind of a waste of time, honestly. Also, if a person sees a PA or nurse practitioner, that's also a great thing because they tend to spend more time. And the doctor will get this thing, and they're like, wow, I never got one of these before. And it has information like, yeah, hi, Jane Smith is coming in to see me. I'm seeing her once a week, we're working on this or whatever. By the way, I'm not sure if she's told you that she, hasn't been that compliant with her meds, or, she's complaining to me that she's having some symptoms here. And I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up, and 9 times out of 10, I actually have a call from the doctor. It's crazy. It's all about relationships, really, and what you can do for the physicians to make their jobs easier. And believe me, you really, really can. I mean, neurologists, primary care doctors, of course, psychiatrists. And don't assume that psychiatrists won't want to talk to you because, you're just a therapist and all that. Because the ones that you want to work with definitely want to work with you. So, I mean, I haven't accepted somebody who calls who says I have Blue Cross Blue Shield. That hasn't been referred to me specifically by somebody in 5 years. So.
That's a great point. And, even just starting with your own doctor, your own kid's pediatrician, my daughter's pediatrician and my own doctor both have my personal cell phone number, and they probably call me every 2 months or so and say, hey, I have a client I want to refer. Here's the situation. And so when you do have that personal relationship, I'll see Sherry, my daughter's pediatrician, over at the yacht club, and she's a racer. My wife races on her boat. Like that, she was a pediatrician first, and then we developed that relationship kind of over time. Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing, the referral coordinator, I know they switch sometimes, but having a relationship with that person is really critical. I mean, I have people call me. I only take one insurance right now. They still call me and say, I have somebody who's got Aetna and this is the problem, can you help me find somebody? And it's a great, way to keep up relationships and help out too.
That's great. Beth, I'm going to have you mute yourself. And then there's a few kind of questions that kind of go off of this that I wanted to address. Cora asked, who or where are good places to market when you don't take insurance? It seems like most doctors' offices are turned off by that. So I think that being able to describe why you don't take insurance is really important. That's definitely a part of marketing. And a lot of even my consulting clients who are really far along and successful struggle with this. And so thinking about how are you going to address that? And kind of the way that the intake call that I've seen goes best is first starting with like, what's the problem they're calling about, talking about that problem, investigating it, matching that with your own skill set. Then asking them about times that work best for them. So I'm only free on Wednesday nights. Okay, well then here I'm available then, and we establish a time that would work. And then talking about how I'm an out-of-network provider, which means that you directly have to pay for your services and then seek potential reimbursement from your insurance companies. We always recommend people talk to their insurance company. We have had a couple people that didn't get reimbursement, but more times than not, people are reimbursed partially or fully from their insurance company. And so like we've had experiences where 100% was covered, and I've had experiences where 0% was covered. So it's very important that you talk to your insurance company about that. Now, some people will be totally turned off. They just want to use their insurance, and that's part of not taking insurance. But I think being able to describe what it means to be an out-of-network benefit provider is really important, especially because a lot of people now have very high deductibles. So they'll have a $5,000 deductible, and if they don't have a surgery or they're not on a really expensive medication, they may not hit their deductible every year anyway. So they're probably going to pay out of pocket, even if that person was in network for their insurance. It would count for their deductible, but what does that really matter if you're not going to hit your deductible? And then also teaching people about flexible spending accounts and health savings accounts. And so a lot of doctors I've met actually don't even understand out-of-network providers like I just explained it. And so teaching the doctors is just as important as teaching potential clients. And then I see a couple more questions. And then Tiffany, I saw you raised your hand, so we'll get to you in just a second. And then we'll hit the people that are on the phone so you guys don't get left out as well.
Can I jump in on that question too,
Yeah.
that last one? I think sometimes we can get in this mindset where we assume that everyone's sort of doing the commodity model of shopping for a therapist where if we don't take insurance, that's the first thing they're going to see. And some people, that's true. They'll just cross it off the list. But if you are getting in front of people and you're connecting with them, that has so much power. You know, if they've seen you at a talk or they've had a really good conversation with you or had a personal introduction or a good recommendation of you in particular, when people are in pain and seeking counseling and needing help, they're going to connect with you first. It's more of a heart decision than a head decision, where they're more likely to just make it work. So this is where we have to just get in front of people. People go with who they know and who they're comfortable with first. So
sure. I've even had people that went off and worked with someone from insurance, and then they're like, I would rather see you once a month because I know you're the best fit, and I'll pay your full rate and just come once a month.
Exactly.
So Brittany asked, in regards to my daughter's pediatrician, how did I do that? So I asked her, how old of kids do you see? And she said, oh, I have kids that even have gone off to college and I'm still seeing them kind of as their primary care doctor. So first I established that she sees the kind of people that she would refer to me or to my practice. And then actually in my daughter's session, I brought some cards with me and said, I don't know if you know or remember, but I'm a counselor. I have a practice mental wellness counseling. I'd love to talk with you more. And then I wrote down my cell phone number. If you ever have a complex client you just want to like talk about, here's my personal cell. Like, I'm happy to talk with you. And then it was actually one of her son's friends was dealing with something, and she called my cell phone and said, like, I'm not sure what to do or recommend here. And so, all right, let's do Tiffany, and then we're going to unmute some of the phones. I know there's a bunch of questions coming in. All right, Tiffany, I saw your hand up. Let me scroll back to you. There we go. And unmute audio. What's your question, Tiffany?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
So far, thank you. This is fantastic. I said I actually do have questions. I pretended like I came to see your faces, but really I don't. So to this point about one, having an ideal client. So I've recently niched down to focus on a very specific niche, which is underrepresented folks in tech, particularly women. And a colleague and I are going to be putting on a workshop in January. It's the first time we're going to organize it and market it and put it together. And I wonder, I've never put on a workshop. I wonder if you all have any resources for, it's going to be about 3 hours, for how to kind of tackle and break down creating and putting on a workshop.
Awesome. Who wants to dive in first?
Who wants to grab that? I'll start. And I feel like I have a great resource at the tip of my tongue. It's totally leaving me. I think there was a Smart Passive Income episode that specifically talked about workshops and how to structure them. The main thing I would say is, off the top of my head, is have a story bank. Come up with your best stories that illustrate the work that you do, and seed your talk with those stories, examples of getting the results that are possible for them, or the results that they need, or just stories that speak to their pain point. Really speak to what their experience is like. But our brains are wired to respond to narrative, and there's a saying that whoever has the most stories wins. So however you structure your talk, put as many stories as possible in there. And also, you might want to break it up and have a little bit of reflection time, where they, maybe talk to the person next to them. You want to mix it up a little bit so that they don't start to our attention spans are pretty short these days. One thing not to do, if you are going to do an experiential piece of it, a lot of people will go up and they'll say, okay, so first I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to have you call out your experience or break into groups. And for introverts, that scares the poo out of them, and suddenly now they're just stuck in their fear of, I'm going to have to speak in front of everyone, and they don't hear anything that you say. So don't warn them that they're going to have to speak if you're going to be calling on people, if that makes sense.
That is a great point.
Those are my 2 cents.
Awesome. Well, and I'm sure that all 3 of us have some tips on there, but I want to make sure we hit some of those phone people. I'm going to unmute everyone, and if you're on the computer, if you could just remute yourself so we don't get everyone's audio, and you might want to have your hand on your mute button for yourself or your earphones in case there's just some crazy noise. All right, so if you are calling in and have a question, this is your chance, so you're not left out.
Hey guys, this is Mary Ellen from Connecticut. I have a question.
Hey, Mary Ellen.
Hey guys. How are you guys doing? Huge fans of both Joe and Allison Puryear and the other gal. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I know I'm on the right track. And as Allison Puryear would say, this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but universe is really supporting my private practice. I know for sure. Just started seeing clients in like March-ish, April. I'm a LMFT, so I do couples. And really built up fairly quickly to about 15, like in 3 months. And everybody was like, wow. And then I did have some drop-off in June, which I wasn't really totally prepared for, but still, out there building. Anything for the early gals, guys, of like riding the emotional roller coaster, 1, and B, kind of like every day I'm like, all right, so maybe today I should go down to Bed Bath & Beyond for the summer for, so a little bit on the cusp. I'm a single gal and there's not much, there's not much of a margin. So kind of early in the first trimester or so. Yeah.
So can I hop in there?
Yeah, do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think part of it is we get so steeped in fear sometimes it's hard to extract ourselves and we start catastrophizing and we get stuck there. So one thing I would recommend is first finding pleasure, like adding some pleasure into your life so that you can kind of get back in the flow of joy again. And looking at your marketing plan with lots of love and self-compassion and seeing if it needs some tweaks. You probably don't need to overhaul the entire thing, but just looking like what's been paying off for you so far and really reinvesting in either those relationships or that those blog posts or whatever has been working, making sure you're doing more of that. It's not uncommon early on to have these dips in the summer. They tend to steady a little bit later on once you've been in it a couple years. But being like knowing that you're exactly where you're meant to be, you're exactly where you're supposed to be with this. Every single one of us, well, I don't know if I can say that. I have been through this same thing. I know Jane has been through it. I suspect Joe has been through it. Like most of us have been there. Joe's shaking his head. He's like, no, I was always on it. But most of us, most of the people in this webinar right now have probably either been there or are currently there. And so to keep the faith, you'll get there. It's just, I think John Harrison recently said in a Selling the Couch podcast, like, look at this in the long-term story of your practice. Like, you're on chapter 1 or 2. You're not meant to be, it's not meant to be totally over yet.
Yeah, actually in early June, Steve, one of my counselors, he discharged a whole bunch of people that kind of graduated from counseling, and then just like the phone like wasn't ringing, and he came to me, he's like, what is happening? And I said, reach out to the attorneys that have referred you. He does a lot of substance abuse assessments, and literally 3 weeks later he had his best week ever. And so like, looking at what's working, like what Allison said, I think is really important. And we're going to stick around for a little bit after the webinar. So, but those of you that have to go in a minute, we'll do a closing in just a minute. But I want to see if there's anyone else on the phone that has questions that we may be able to do in the last minute or so. But we are going to stick around after we're officially done for just a little bit to answer some questions. So if you're on the phone, go ahead and jump in with a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay, I have the following question. I am trying I just started putting things on my Facebook page, and I would like to add a little video, right, talking, because now since that you recommended, Joe, to put videos, I wanted to ask you or any of the other 3 people in the panel, which are all great, can I just video myself with an iPhone or an iPad, or do I need special equipment to do that?
What's your name?
Silvina.
Sidina. Thanks for that question. Jane, what do you think in regards to video on Facebook? Like, do you have to get a fancy camera, or should you just do it with your iPhone?
I think you can do it just with your iPhone at first. You know, when you're moving into more advanced marketing and online courses and that kind of thing, you're going to want something a little more sophisticated. But it's amazing how much people will connect just with a simple iPhone video. Of any of the videos I've done them on my iPhone. I got a little, I did get a little clip lavalier microphone and a little tripod, and for less than $50 total.
What equipment do you recommend? Because I am planning to do online too. So what camera should I buy since I'm going to buy? What do you recommend for an online course?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know who you
I
should
really
check
like.
out?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead, because I actually was deferring.
Oh, okay. No, I have the Canon T3 and that was great a couple of years ago. But I would say that right now, the Canon 5, if you're looking to invest a little bit, especially if you have a course, I would recommend going Canon over other ones because they have the most amount of lenses that you can use. And usually you get a lens that can zoom in and do like a 1.4 or a 2.1 so that you get that blurry background if you're going to invest in a camera. And we'll stay on for a little bit longer to take some more questions. But those of you that have to go, we want to respect your time. Thank you so much for attending. Again, Brew Your Practice is happening on the 29th and 30th of September down in Asheville, North Carolina. The rate goes up tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can email all 3 of us. Again, you can head on over to privatepracticecounselors.com/brew, and we'd love to have you join us down there and hang out a little more. But we're going to stick around for a couple more minutes to answer questions. We have ones that we didn't get to. But those of you that have to go, thanks so much for coming.
Would you maybe want to...
All right.
So I hear somebody on the phone. Can we remute?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Brittany still here? I saw that she posted a question about Facebook. There she is. Sorry, I just asked if she was here and she's muted. That wasn't really fair.
All right, let me look for Brittany. Go ahead and raise your hand, Brittany, if that'll help me find you quicker. Oh, there you are. All right, unmute. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi. So I don't know how much this actually falls into the realm of marketing, but I kind of see my Facebook page as a marketing tool because I don't use Facebook personally a whole lot. So So my question is just how often do I post, and like what do I post? I just seem to have kind of a block with what to actually post. So I like to post a lot of like quotes and stuff, and I'm just getting sick of doing that. I don't know really what else to post. I'm assuming blogs would be a great idea. But in addition to that, I just didn't know if you guys had any insight on that in terms of marketing and Facebook and all of that.
And are you doing it on a Facebook page or on your personal just Facebook feed?
A business page.
Okay. And how many people like your page right now?
Not many. So that's my problem, is because I don't use Facebook a ton. Like in my personal life, I don't know. I just don't like to post things on Facebook. And I know I've heard that before, that you should like ask your friends to like your page and all of that to kind of get the word out. And my thing with that is I haven't done that yet, because in my mind, it's not like my friends are going to be my clients anyway. So I don't know. I guess I just feel weird about the whole thing and wondered kind of how people handle that, because it seems very necessary this day and age to have a private practice page.
So Jane and Allison, what do you guys think about her use of time on a platform she doesn't like?
I was about to say, like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to.
No.
It's not going to be so impactful that it's going to like make or break you.
I totally agree. And I would say that if she wants to reach the Facebook folks, like run a Facebook ad here and there, but I'd rather see her put time into a platform she likes, like Pinterest or, Instagram, or maybe you just don't like social media, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I totally agree.
You are free.
Yay! Permission to drop it.
Awesome. Question for Jane: When you do your open houses, are you reaching your friends? It's not clients, right?
It's friends and acquaintances. It's not clients. I mean, we'll have a flyer out in the waiting area, and part of that is that if I have a client who wants to find out about the massage therapists in the office, they may be interested in that. But I've never had a client actually come to an open house because it's kind of awkward for them too. So, right. So I put the word out just to everyone I know. It's really. I think sometimes we just think about referral sources as other professionals, but everyone might know someone who might need what you're doing. So it just sort of generates momentum. The first one I did, all of the attendees were just my good friends, and we had a great time, and they already knew about me. So it wasn't like I was reaching new referral sources, but again, having put the ad out and put the Facebook invitation out, it reached a whole lot of other people. So it actually worked in terms of referrals.
Great.
Yeah.
One thing I did is I hired a musician. Her name's Miriam Pico, and so she just played her acoustic guitar. We have a 4-office suite, so we had Pico and Pinot, so we had wine and Miriam Pico, which then became the idea for Pinot and Practice, which is another event I'm doing here in August. Awesome. So a couple other questions about social media that came up that I think we could lump together. Like one, Emma said, what's the best social media platform? And then Ada asked, if you don't have a lot of likes on Facebook, is it worth it to keep posting?
Mm-hmm. I would say the best social media platform is the one that you like plus the one that your ideal clients are on. So yes. Like if you work with moms whose kids are transitioning to school, like kindergarten, then maybe Pinterest, because those might be the moms who are like trying to get it all right. If you like the perfectionistic moms, Pinterest is your place. If you like, I love Facebook. I feel like I could spend way too much time on Facebook. And so that's where I've built most of my social media stuff, even though I have the others. But I'm usually a fan of like building one and getting strong on one instead of being scattershot. Like I hate Twitter with every inch of my being. I'm on it because I have an assistant who does that. Not to burst any bubbles, but I'm not on Twitter that much because that would be a lot. But like having a presence that you're doing instead of hiring somebody to do, I say just like focus on one and do it great and make sure it's the one you like and one where your clients show up.
And I would add with the Facebook page, even if you only have your friends who've liked it or just a few likes, I like to repost articles that I've found. So I'll just be scrolling through my news feed and, today NPR posted an article about therapy and people trying to seek that. So I reposted it, and then if my friends repost it, like if it's a really good or interesting article, their friends are going to see it and they may come back and like my page. So you're just building momentum over time.
That's awesome. One thing I do with mental wellness counseling is I'll just go to like Huffington Post and go to their health section and just sit there and find 20 different articles and schedule them to go out on a Monday.
Yes.
Or I'll put them into my Meet Edgar, which then cycles through things. Meet Edgar's a little bit more expensive, but once you put it in, it just rotates through. I used to have a VA that helped with it, but the cost of Meet Edgar is cheaper than the cost of having a VA do it. So. Well, awesome. Well, we have loved hanging out with the 50 of you that came and those that will be watching the replay. Again, hang out with us in Asheville on the 29th and 30th of September. You can head on over to privatepracticecounselors.com/brew to get your tickets today and tomorrow for $997. You're going to get to hang out with all three of us for 2 days in a small group, and it's going to be phenomenal. Thanks so much for coming, and you guys all rock. Well done taking time to invest in your practice. And Jane and Allison, thanks so much for doing this venture with me. You two are a lot of fun to work with.
It's so fun to work with you. High five.
All right.
Yay.
See you, everybody.
Bye, y'all. Thanks.